All right, everybody. I've been showing you guys how to prep your project for a sound mix, and we showed you in the previous episodes how to get your credits in there, stabilize your shots, put some effects on, do some little effect work on your shots to get things ready to go. And project is now prepped. So now I'm going to show you guys how to do a sound mix on this. We're just going to do this inside Premiere. Premiere Pro has really come a long ways in the last few years as far as audio is concerned. They've done some really significant features. They've ever since they added like their lumetri panel over here. They've been doing that for several functions like their graphics and for their audio. It's really helpful that they've added this panel here on the side. So if we go up to audio here, this is going to arrange for audio, and we have added the essential sound panel here on the side. And move this over, just get a little larger visual there on my image. Now, one thing that I've delivered with you guys has been some basic sound effects here. Under the exercise folder, you'll find this sound effects file here. You open it up, and I've got several sound effects that I've downloaded that can be used in this project. I'll kind of go through this and show you which ones, what is what here. But so a good place to start for sound effects, for finding sound effects, is first of all when you watch your movie, as you play through it, I'd start thinking about what sort of sound effects you want to have in here. Like this, as I play through, the window is open, so maybe some indoor ambient noise, just some subtle ambient noise, and then outside maybe just some wind blowing or some crickets chirping, dogs barking, just things that you might hear from outside, which we make a little further away. When she gets up and starts walking, we might want to put some just mild kind of footsteps in. We're not really doing full. I'm not going to do a full-on Foley track for this. We're not getting into Foley track, but I'm going to kind of do a makeshift Foley track here, which is going to be things like footsteps, and then of course the knocking on the window is another thing I want. Knocking on glass. And you want to kind of watch through your project and just take notes on what sound effects and what sounds you may need. So the other thing that I want besides sound effects here is going to be music as well. Whether you're having music composed for you, if you're making a short film and you're having a custom track composed by a composer, which is, in my opinion, a lot better than just getting canned music off the internet for free. But they've got some pretty decent resources online for music as well, which I'm going to be showing you. First of all, sound effects. If you go to freesound.org and you make a free login, everything is free on here. This is like a large database where people come and upload and share their files, and anything they upload and share on this website, balloons, is nice for, you can share your own, but people are going to be using it for free. They don't own it necessarily, but they don't own the files that are here, but you're giving them the right basically to use your files by uploading it here. That's why they call it free sound, so there's no false advertisement here. So I'm logged in here. And let's say we want to search for ambient noise. Let's find, first of all, room tone. Room tone is kind of a subtle tone inside of a home, just just ambient noise. So if you type in room tone, it will bring up a ton of room tone on here. I am providing some of the ones that you could be used for this project, but if you want to find others, if you want to find more sound effects, this is a good resource here, an excellent resource. But if you just click the little play down here, it'll do a little preview after you've logged in, of course. And that is a good little room tone. Oftentimes, room tone will come in at a very kind of low level. Some people will crank it up higher levels. It just really depends on the sound artist. But one thing I'd recommend here is if you want to find high quality, you can narrow things down by sample rate here. You can do it by bit depth. You can do it by the amount of channels. If you're looking for mono channels specifically or stereo channels, if they're stereo channels, you can convert them to mono and so on. But once you find a file that you like, let's say I like this file, this room tone stairway 1 here. You just click on this file. What I usually do is I will hold down Control or Command on a Mac and click, and it will open up, this is in Chrome, and it will open up a separate tab with the download file. So rather than like download, and have to navigate between all these web pages, I will search all my sound effects, find them, click them, then I'll have all these tabs opened up with all the sound effects. Let's do like knock, glass. See if we can find a knock on glass here. Knock on glass. This one looks really loud. Yeah, that's kind of loud. Let's go to this one. That one's pretty good there. So let's say you like that one. I'm going to hold down Control and click here. And another thing you probably don't want to do is I would avoid MP3s. They're not always low quality, but sometimes you'll come across one that's going to sound very sampled and very compressed. So, but once you find all those files, you can go down and just hit download, and now it will download here. And since this is kind of a free website, they don't have like the fastest servers. Sometimes it'll take them up to like 3 or 4 minutes to download a really small file. And let me go to this tab, download. I'm going to start downloading all these. One thing that you want to be aware of is as you download these things, where are your audio files going? By default, they go into your downloads folder. So what I recommend doing is go to your downloads folder and move them into your production folder before importing them into Premiere. That way, if you're going to be just working on your desktop and that's the only thing you're working on, that's fine. But if you want to be portable and take your project somewhere else on a hard drive, I'd recommend move those files into your production folder and on the hard drive that you're using, and then import them into Premiere. That way, they're not scattered throughout your computer on download folders and these weird Premiere folders and other places. They'll just be all in your production folder, organized into one place. Okay, so I'm in my production folder here. I've got this mirror production folder here, and I've got that sound effects folder right there. And these are all the sound effects that I found. And some of these you can even create for yourself. Even if you have like a Zoom recorder, you can go outside and pick up sounds if you need something like if a door creaking or a very specific sound, you can go out and just record those, save those, and bring them in and then edit it. And then edit it into your project. So let me go into my project here, and I'm going to import. Let's go up to my project window. Here's my project window. Let's move this down a little bit here. Now I'm going to import my project folder. Do Control-I to import. Select my sound effects folder here and import folder. And now if I double click on my sound effects folder here, it opens it up. It opens up that separate tab, and now I've got all my sound effects listed right here, and I can start working. Now before I get into my sound effects, the very first thing that you want to do is you want to go through and use, if you have any audio that you're using that was recorded on set. This is not dialogue, so I am going to go through a future episode where I show how to actually clean up dialogue, because Premiere has a really good dialogue cleanup feature now. But we can play through this and start listening. And that audio there, we got some bassy kind of wind against the mic. They're probably moving the mic across there and didn't have a wind filter on it or anything, and just kind of got some blowing noise on the beginning there. So I don't like that noise, so I'm going to get rid of that. So like I said, I'm going to get rid of just kind of all this ambient noise here. There's just some ambient noise of her walking around and stuff. There's not a lot here that's terribly usable, but I'm going to still use this. So I'm going to get rid of that by grabbing this and trimming. And actually, let's do this first. I'm going to lock my video tracks. If you have any other video tracks up here, I would lock everything that you have. I don't have any other video tracks up here, so I just have to lock that bottom one. So that way it's not editing your video that you're finished editing here. So I'm going to trim this out right there and get rid of that audio there. Now I'm going to play. Very kind of subtle ambient noise there. And we have some talking, and I want to get rid of that knock noise. I'm going to add my own knock to it. So I'm just going to select that with that talking. Actually, let's trim this over to right there. And we hear this audio kind of cutting in and out. So what I'm going to do first of all is kind of fill this in. Let's go up here. I'm going to grab this audio, drag it over, and see if there's more audio here. No, there's talking there. So what I can actually do, let's do this. I'm going to hold down Alt, and I'm going to grab this and drag it over and duplicate it. Since it is just simple kind of like just blank audio here and nothing's moving, it's just blank ambient noise, which is good. So I might need to add room tone to this. We'll see if we need to do that. But if I trim this back, I'm probably going to get audio. Yeah, there's talking there, or that wind noise. I can grab this and duplicate it, hold down Alt and drag it over. And I'm going to trim this over to the beginning of the movie here, right there. And to kind of smooth out these transitions here, first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the beginning. Here I'm going to arrow down and land on this, and then I'm going to do Control-Shift-D. And I've got to fade into this audio here, just kind of a subtle fade in. And I hear a little teeny bump right there on this transition of the audio, so I can do Control-Shift-D to do a... Oops, you got to make sure everything is not selected. This is selected here, that transition. I try to do a transition here. It's not doing it because I got to deselect. Control-Shift-A will deselect everything. Control-Shift-D to do a crossfade here. Shorten that up a little bit because we just want to do the short crossfade. It will fade one out while fading one in, and it sounds... Oh, got a little knock there. Let's move this over, see if we can get rid of that knock. It's got to go the other way, this way. Let's shorten that, just make a really short one. And there we go. That sounds a lot smoother there. So I'm going to arrow down, do a crossfade here, Control-Shift-D, and I get more knocking, so you just got to shorten that. I'm going to make these really short and subtle. You know, it makes it longer, it's going to pick up audio from the handles of this audio elsewhere. But that sounds really smooth there. I just need a short one on that one. And now I can decide I can take it from here or from here, and I'm going to duplicate and just, because right now luckily nothing's happening. It's just kind of all quiet. She's just sitting there and not making much noise. So I'm going to duplicate that. Let's actually grab, this is kind of a bigger file here. Maybe I'm going to use that as my base audio here. I'm going to get rid of these files here. I'm going to hold down Alt and duplicate this. And I'm going to bring this over, duplicate that as well, make it shorter. See how I'm trimming this? And I've got my magnet turned on right now, which snaps. So this will snap to the edge of in and out points right there and there. Then I can select that and Alt arrow up. So let's add our cross dissolves here. Control Shift D, Control Shift D, and let's listen to those. So I got the knocking noise that these are too loud here, so I'm just, or these are too long, so I'm just going to shorten that one. Now let's listen through it. That sounds nice and smooth, smoothing through those. I don't need really long ones. Actually, once I get it kind of the length I like, I can select this and do Control Copy, Control C, or Command C on a Mac. I'm going to arrow down. Notice that this is still selected, so I got to hit Control Shift A to deselect, and now Control V to paste that, and it's got the same length of crossfade there. Sounds good. Put a dissolve there as well. Control V to paste, because I'm still pasting the same one. So these crossfades here are smoothing out those transitions so you don't hear an obvious shift. See, watch if I delete this. Listen very closely. You hear a little shift there. So if I paste that on there, now listen. Sounds nice and smooth. And I hear a little noise here, somebody talking, the director talking. So I'm going to cut this out. So the way I'm going to cut this out here is I'm going to use my razor blade. If you hit the letter C, C will bring up the razor blade. C, I think of C for cut. So I hit C for cut, and it will bring up my razor blade tool here, and I click it right before the director talks. Click, and then I play through this. Knock, 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 and I'm going to cut it out there as well. And I'm going to hit V for my arrow tool, select this, and delete it. And we've got that gap there. So now I can grab audio from over here when she's being quiet, because here she starts moving, so there's a little bit of movement noise. I'm going to hold Alt, click and drag this while I'm holding Alt, drag this over and duplicate it. Let's shorten this down a little bit on both sides. There we go. Alt arrow up. And I can select a range of these clips here and do Control Shift D, and I'll add crossfades between all of those there. Let's play through it. And I hear the voice there, so I got to shorten these. It bleeds over into the voice, so shorten that. Shorten that, and let's hear if the transition sounds smooth. And there you go. Okay, and there's also this where she looks out the window here that was shot MOS, shot without sound. So when she comes and looks through the drapes here, we might want to cut outside. We'll have different noises for outside. That'll go. We'll see that in a little bit here. So right there is not bad. I don't want to have the ambient noise in because now the camera is outside. And I'm going to continue doing this from beginning to end. If there's even like subtle noises of her like getting up and walking, like right here where she sits up. Right there's a little bit of a rustle from her sitting up. I'm gonna be working on the audio levels here in a little bit after I get this kind of cleaned up. So I'm gonna go through. I'm gonna clean up the whole entire project here, just the way I'm doing, and then we're gonna come back and then we're gonna start working with volume levels. Okay, so we'll be right back. Okay, I've got this fairly complete here. I've got my first step fairly complete. But what I want to show you is one more little example here where it brings in too much of some bad audio here and how I dealt with that. As I'm playing through this here, as it cuts back to her inside the second time, you have some jerk face talking right there called the actually that wasn't the director, but that was some jerk face talking. So what we can do here, and this is called a J cut. You have J cuts and L cuts. This is where you extend the audio from one video over into the other. So I'm going to delete this here because that's all bad audio. And now I'm going to grab this audio here and extend it over to the left and see if I have enough kind of blank sounding audio, which I do. Look at the waveforms. I have some blank sounding audio there. And this is called, oh no, there's another jerk face talking there. So that one doesn't work. Let's grab this audio here and drag that back and see if it works. And that actually worked. And the reason why this is called a J, because it kind of forms the shape of a J. It comes down and then over to the left like that. It extends over so it looks like a J. If you're doing it the opposite way, if you're doing it from this way over to the audio this way, it is an L cut. It does extends the audio. So if this audio belonged to this clip, that would be an L cut, but it belongs to this clip, so this is a J cut. See, and we might be able to extend this one and get away with it. Let's pull that backwards. Nope, we got the knocking noise, so I'm going to get rid of that. And I'm just going to find a little piece of audio right here. This is some blank audio there. I'm going to hold down Alt, drag it over and duplicate it, and then we're going to let's size that down so it fits. Alt, arrow up, and then let's do a Control-Shift-D for those three. I don't want one starting at this point here. I just want that cutting back in directly, so I'm going to delete that one, but now I have my crossfade between these. Let's listen to it. And I got a little bit of the knock noise, so I just got to shorten those. That's gone. And that one's fine. Cool, so that step is done. So let's start talking about levels now. Well, you got to be familiar with what's called your decibel meter over here. You got your decibel meter over here. And it's important also to know that we are working within a stereo environment. That means we're working with basically 2 channels of audio. We're working with something that's going to play out to your left speaker and to your right speaker, which is standard for most like HD televisions and computer systems. People usually have 2 speakers. Those 2 speakers are supposed to kind of simulate our ears. We've got a left ear, a right ear, and we're hearing things kind of in stereo within our ears. We're hearing them through 2 different sources, our left ear and our right ear. So that's what the 2 speakers are for. You also have things like surround sound. We're not going to be getting into that. Gets quite complex. But that's what this represents here, is a stereo mixer here. As we play this back, this is a single file. This is called a mono file. The mono file is just one audio source that plays the same levels to the left channel as to the right channel. As we play this back, look at this. You got audio pumping up around negative 42, negative 39 decibels, which is really quiet audio. Stereo systems tend to have what they call a dynamic range from 0 to negative 12. It has a 12 decibel dynamic range. That means negative 12. Okay, let's just define what happens here at 0. At 0, this is where audio clips or distorts. If you turn up your audio so much, if you gain it so much, eventually it will hit the 0 and it will start destroying your audio. It will start clipping and distorting. So you never want to reach 0, where your audio will be distorted and will start destroying it. Down here at the very bottom of the level here, this is where audio basically disappears. Your data disappears and there's just nothing left. There's no noise, there's nothing left down here. But as we start turning this up here, there's a difference between turning up your production audio, your volume level of the audio, and also turning up your monitor volume. Your monitor volume is if you have like your computer and you're turning your speakers up. That is, so you got to be aware if your speakers are kind of turned down and you're cranking your audio up, your audio is going to be too loud, but it sounds quiet to you on your speakers because your speakers aren't calibrated properly. Quick way to calibrate them is just to play some standard dialogue off of like YouTube. This is not really recommended for professional audio, but this is if you're just working at home. Play some dialogue on the computer screen, even like some tutorial videos or something like that, like you're doing now, and turn up to where your volume sounds really good. Sounds like somebody's standing right in front of you talking to you, and slightly exaggerated. And that way, then your computer speakers are quote unquote calibrated. Audio people have kind of a similar way of doing that, where they bring in these calibrated audio files and they play it and they get their levels set on their monitor headsets or on their monitor system. But that's just kind of a quick way of doing it on your speakers, is to play something like a tutorial, something that's been sound mixed properly, and play it so somebody that's talking sounds like they're in front of you but slightly exaggerated. That's kind of the way audio artists describe it. So once those are calibrated, then you're going to start playing through this and listen to your audio levels and see, like this ambient noise, it is down near negative 45. When dialogue would be being spoken around negative 12 on a stereo system, it'd be like between negative 12 to negative 9, kind of bouncing around that area. That's what we're going to call a kind of our average listenable level for dialogue, but this project does not have dialogue, so you're just going to have to kind of figure that out. But the music might be kind of loud. The music might be up around, when the music swells, it might be up around like negative 12 to negative 6. Keep in mind in the stereo, negative 6 is going to be kind of loud, and above that will be even louder. Like if you're getting like explosions and gunshots and stuff, those might be up around negative 3, even a little bit louder depending on if they're close by or not. But below that, ambient noise, if you're below like the kind of the dialogue listening level, you're going to go down maybe, I don't know, it depends on if you're out on the streets. It's really, really subjective. It might be around like negative 27, negative 24, and if you're just in a room where you got room tone, the room tone might be around like negative 30, negative 36 or so. Right now this is playing at like negative 42, so it's pretty low. So let's take that up to negative 30. Now, surround sound systems have a dynamic range. It's essentially double that of stereo files. It's at negative 24. That's why if you play a surround sound mix on your stereo speakers, you're going to be turning your volume up and down on your TV set, because the action's really loud and the dialogue's really quiet. Those are made for a big surround sound system in a movie theater. So if you're on a Blu-ray or something like that, or on Netflix, you can choose to have it play the stereo mix rather than the surround sound mix, if that is an issue. So my audio here is fairly low. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my audio here. Let's select a range of audio right now. We're going to work with this. I'm just going to, because nothing's really slowly happening through here. I'm just going to select this range of audio. We're going to go up here and we're going to define this under the Essential Sound tab as ambience. Now, ambience has some cool little features up here. It's got an auto match loudness for ambient noise. If you hit this, this is room tone, so let's see if this does an okay job with it. This increased it like significantly. Look how much that brought it up. It brought it up around, it's thinking your ambient noise should be around like negative 18 to 21. If that's like regular ambient noise, like a fridge running or dog barking or something like that. So I'm just going to undo that. Depending on what your sound effects are, this does a pretty good job of auto-balancing things usually. But I like adding the ambient feature to these files here. It's added, by the way, when I hit that ambience, it's added all those effect filters to all these clips that I had selected. But I'm going to select all the same ones I had selected before, and I'm going to go to, has a reverb function, so if you're inside or outside, it's going to match the reverb of the location that you're in here. But let's first of all gain this ourselves. We're going to manually gain it. I've got it selected. I'm going to hit G for gain. It brings this up. I'm going to add, maybe we wanted to go from negative 42 to about negative 30, so that's about 12 decibels. So I'm going to increase it by 12 decibels. I hit OK. And it increases, and you see your waveforms increase here. I'm going to Alt scroll over. I'm going to move my mouse over this little blank area and Alt scroll to make it larger. And now we can hear that a lot better. See, as we move over to her getting up, we can hear the book shut. We can hear her get up a little bit better. And let's do that to these two files here as well. I'm going to gain those. Then I'll assign them as ambient so we can add filters later on. I'm going to hit G to gain those two here, and I'm going to gain them by 12. It's probably going to be too much because this was already louder than this one here. So I'm going to hit G again, and I'm going to go down maybe negative 6 and try to get those to kind of match. Maybe 2 more decibels down. Gain negative 2, enter. And they look about, that waveforms look about the same. Let's play through it and listen. And this one needs to be gained maybe about by 6 over here to match. Okay, that sounds good. So I'm going to continue to do that throughout. And I'm going to gain these so everything is kind of sounding the same. So all my ambient noise is around like maybe 30 decibels. Except for when she's getting up and standing, that's going to be a little bit louder, which is fine. And then I'm going to come back and show you the next step.